All right, it looks like we've got all our folks here. So thanks everyone for joining. We currently have 22 participants. This is a really great addition to the earlier webinar we had at 1 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank all of our speakers in advance for being here, all of our participants for joining in, as well as folks who were on earlier. Please allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Brett Nadrich. I'm the Communications Director with GreenFaith. I'm a relatively new team member here, just about to enter my 3rd month on the job. Thrilled to be a part of the team. For folks who may not be familiar with GreenFaith, and let me just stop and check, can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, thumbs up, good. Excellent, thank you. So my name is Brett. Again, I'm the Communications Director here. By way of background, I am a member of the Jewish faith. I was raised Reformed Jewish, still practice. Studied theology during my university years along with environmental policy. And I'm thrilled to be here at GreenFaith, which really does operate at the intersection of environmental action and religious and spiritual communities. The purpose of this webinar is to really focus on a variety of climate action opportunities for faith communities, which GreenFaith will be helping to organize this September. We have 3 core actions. On September 8th, we will be rising for climate action and climate jobs and justice with the People's Climate Movement, with 350.org, and a whole bunch of other folks around the world, particularly in San Francisco and California, but also across the US and all over the world. Then on September 12th, GreenFaith will be co-hosting a multi-faith service as part of the Global Climate Action Summit. That'll be at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. We will have an opportunity for folks to register to attend in person if you will be in San Francisco, as well as to register for the live stream video if you won't be in San Francisco. And I should say that that live stream, just like this webinar, will be available for viewing afterwards if you can't happen to make the time live. And then finally, we'll be talking about a few opportunities that will exist as part of the Global Climate Action Summit on September 13th and 14th as part of that official programming. Again, just by way of background, to provide a little bit of detail about who we are and what we do as GreenFaith, we are particularly coming together right now to recognize challenges that are facing the US and all over the world, focusing on environmental action and climate change. Right now, there's actually a pretty sizable threat to unions and working families here in the US. We're waiting for the decision, the US Supreme Court decision in Janus versus AFS-CME, which is the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. And so part of what we're doing right now is making sure that as faith leaders and as faith-based actors, we are standing up in unity with our brothers and sisters in the labor movement to ensure that we're defending climate justice for all. And we'll have some folks talk about those opportunities and issues a bit later as well. We're speaking today in particular about how to make our environment healthy and our economy sustainable for all people in all countries all over the world. In particular, we're looking at the Global Climate Action Summit, which is the next real opportunity for faith communities and others to stand up together in a unified manner and focus on climate action. For GreenFaith, as a religious organization, we believe the earth is sacred, and this is what motivates us to act. So this Global Climate Action Summit in September is really the next big opportunity for folks to stand up and take that action. And for folks who may not be familiar with the Global Climate Action Summit, this is really focused on sub-national leaders, meaning non-government actors, specifically looking at mayors, governors, leaders from business, finance, education, civil society, and of course, faith groups. So we'll all be gathering in San Francisco, September 12th to 14th for the Global Climate Action Summit, as well as organizing a variety of events leading up to that, particularly including the Rise for Climate Action Summit, the Rise for Climate Mobilizations on September 8th. On today's webinar, we'll be hearing about how people from diverse religions and spiritualities are rising to share these stories and lift up these leaders, and how you can take part in these opportunities. With that, I'll also say we have a few minutes at the end for asking questions. We'll do Q&A. There's a Q&A function here in Zoom, as well as the chat box, and I'll be monitoring both of those. So feel free to type in your info and add questions as you see fit. All right, so with that, I will turn it over to our first speaker. We are very, very honored to have Nadia Akbar, who is a GreenFaith Circle member here in Central New Jersey. The GreenFaith Circles, Nadia will be able to tell you a bit more. These are the primary mechanism through which GreenFaith does local organizing, not only here in New Jersey where we're headquartered, but all over the US and soon to be expanding around the world. So Nadia, please feel free to take it away. Let me remind you just that you're on mute first. I can unmute you.
Okay, I'm not an Apple user. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Assalamu alaikum, peace be to you all. I'm very honored to be here speaking with you all. So because you asked me to introduce GreenFaith, our local circle, we are the Raritan River Valley Circle of GreenFaith, which includes congregations from across the Central Jersey area, which comprise the Raritan River Valley watershed. We've been meeting for a little over a year now to come together and discuss various issues with environmental consequences, including climate change, to discuss how to encourage our congregations and faith communities and spiritual communities to be better stewards of the environment on issues ranging from resource consumption to community gardening, to coming together to discuss the ethical and moral consequences and reasons that compel us to join GreenFaith and to be environmental stewards and environmental activists. Today, I was asked to just talk a little bit about why I think our participation in GreenFaith's work and in the global climate actions is important. So for me personally, as a person of faith, the central tenet of my faith is to live a life of responsibility towards fellow humans and all creatures. It's a moral and ethical imperative, and climate change is one of the most crucial crises of our time, with deep moral, ethical implications. For many people already, it's a matter of life and death. It's a matter of survival. It's a matter of the survival of their cultures. It's a matter of survival of their land. And for example, I have family in Pakistan. This year, I heard that in April, there were cities where the temperatures reached 120 degrees, the kind of heat waves where people were dying, people were not able to simply survive. So these are obvious moral, ethical questions that, we have a responsibility towards our fellow human beings. So because climate change has such immediate consequences, people are facing the consequences right now, time is of essence. As people of faith, I feel like we have no choice but to come together and to act immediately, consistently, and persistently until we see changes. In my faith, we believe that all power originates from God. However, we also believe that humans have been given agency and responsibility to be stewards of our environment and to take the steps necessary to do our part. Right now, I think that requires us to take immediate action on climate change. It's an issue that transcends our differences. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of identity as an environmentalist, because this is an issue that affects not only the survival of our planet, but just our responsibility towards fellow human beings. Issues of people not having enough water to drink very soon, people not having sufficient food, people being forced to migrate because of climate crises, people being forced into more conflict. We are already seeing the consequences of mass migrations, of people being forced into each other's spaces. So I think as a matter of being able, of global peace, of people being able to survive, we have a responsibility towards each other to come together and come up with solutions for addressing climate change.
Thank you so much, Nadia. And I think that you've really done an incredible job here of demonstrating the breadth and scale of the challenge. I would also direct folks on this webinar to the follow-up email we're going to send early tomorrow morning, which will include links to both this recording and the one from earlier today. One of our colleagues, Pinaki Dasgupta, who is based in India, he's the GreenFaith India Director, spoke to some of the challenges in India and other parts of the world as well. So it's important that we keep in mind this is not just happening in California, across the US, but all over the world. So thank you again for that. I would now turn it over to Jessica Abell, who is the GreenFaith Colorado Organizer and can speak about some of the work going on in Colorado and around the US. And Jessica, you also have to unmute yourself. Thank you.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, thanks.
Lovely. Thanks, Brett. So I'm Jessica Abell. I am the Colorado Organizer for Colorado, and that often means different things here on the ground than it means in other regions throughout the US. Colorado has a reputation for being a little odd, and the reality of that is that it is absolutely true, because we have, hold on, I have notes because I don't want us to sound crazy, because we're not. We have our own rhythm and schedule of doing things here. For instance, we host close to 200 national and international conferences a week, but almost no entity within Colorado regularly has conferences. We do our gathering in different ways. And so our schedule is a little bit different. In Colorado, we have two primary points of action in the next year. One is tomorrow, which is our statewide primaries. The other is our statewide municipal and regional elections in May. We participate in federal elections in November, of course we do. And we will be participating in the summit, of course we are. But I'm really excited to tell you guys about our summit plan, which is also different from others. It fits halfway through a process that started right after the election in 2016, when labor interests and community organizing interests and some eco interests came together similarly to what happened at a national level with PCM, but came together here in Colorado and said, we have to fix just transition. We have to fix jobs. Labor was saying, we're tired of being used as pawns. And so this conversation happened earlier here on the ground, and faith-based communities were part of that conversation from the very beginning, because some community organizing foundations, PICO and IAF, are present in Colorado, and so faith-based communities have that activation already. So it isn't an awareness that we bring. What we bring to the table as faith leaders is that moral refocus towards creation care. It isn't actually a moral refocus towards action. People are, of course, energized by mobilization efforts, but are much more deeply energized by the long term, which is why the Colorado plan for the mobilization, the GCAS, has multiple levels. Will include a year-long policy development process that has multiple sectors, as well as a summit where the principles for that statewide policy will be revealed on September 8th. That summit will also have a gubernatorial debate. And so that will be about what my colleague Malik Safir mentioned last call, the last session, not this morning, the shifting of the political climate to support and nurture climate justice. Because that's one of the realms that people of faith can really live in deeply. We often don't, because we're often afraid of using that advocacy voice. We're afraid of stepping into that political ground. We can never advocate for candidates or parties, but there is a role for that moral advocacy. And so that has been a big piece of what we've brought to the table for this process that's gone on. The other thing that the faith-based groups have done in our mobilization that I would encourage you guys to reach out and talk about how we've done has been to bring the fine arts in. We're doing a kind of a mini gathering around that, and I can't tell you too many details because it's very kind of behind the scenes, but we're going to try out some presence with interfaith worship and fine arts in a way that speaks that prophetic voice soon here in the next this summer. So we're trying some things out, and we're doing some new models and some new forms here in Colorado, but I think that we're also manifesting some of these principles of utilizing houses of worship in this kind of mobilization effort. We have intersections with different kinds of access that many groups do not have. For instance, as Malik mentioned on the last call, we recall, we represent, we nurture, we facilitate the voice of the marginalized, those who are stripped of power. It's part of what we do as people of faith. And as environmental stewards, of course, that work can be founded in environmental justice, but it's also simply that access we have to, that honor that we have to walk with people in that in their lives. The other side, though, the other intersection of access is, frankly, well-resourced houses of worship have stuff, and we often don't think about that. They have solid Wi-Fi connections. They have parking lots. They have spaces where people can have breakout groups. We'll be utilizing them for satellite spots for our summit on September 8th so that we have multiple sites happening throughout the state as well as a single site. But don't forget that well-resourced houses of worship across the board, interfaith, have stuff, and their members have stuff. And they more than want to offer that stuff. They never get asked. So I think one of the things that we can bring to the table as faith leaders, as representative and members of houses of worship ourselves, is that access. We have access to a pulpit, literally sometimes, and a soapbox to speak for advocacy and climate justice and environmental justice, to name these things as moral issues. But we also literally have access to the lives of the people most greatly affected and to the people who can, frankly, most affect change. And people with stuff. So I would encourage you to think outside of how you've normally thought of yourself as a person of faith, if you are, and that neighborhood church, and that we have some skills and techniques that we can talk to you about further, about how to access some of that stuff. But think outside of your normal understanding of what a house of worship can be and who you can be as a faith leader and as a person of faith, if that is where you are in your journey, that there is an expression for you in this environmental justice and ecological stewardship rising up of a voice that reclaims that, what that means to be stewards of creation. That's probably it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And if folks have any questions for Jessica, we'll just save those for the end. Again, the Q&A function or the chat function here. So moving on, I am going to share my screen here so we can check out this presentation about living the change. Okay, folks can see my screen here? Yeah, excellent. So we're speaking here about Living the Change, which is one of the core initiatives with GreenFaith. Living the Change is focused specifically on sustainable living and faith-based opportunities for folks to help mitigate climate change. So just to confirm, can folks read all the text here? Yeah? Okay, great. So a multi-faith sustainable living initiative, again, founded in this belief that Earth is a blessing, it's our common home, it's our temple, our mosque, our sanctuary, our cathedral. This movement is truly multi-faith and interfaith, grounded in our faith, and working around the world with different partners across those faith traditions. We are inviting you to join us in living the change. We've chosen this concept of living the change because we really do want to emphasize that leaders in our faith communities, both clergy and folks who are leading by example in their own lives, are already living this change. They are making changes in their own lives. And so what we want to do is lift up and share those stories and ensure that we're providing a platform for faith-based individuals to inspire others to make similar changes in their own lives. We have a great photo of my colleague Gopal Patel here, who runs the Bhumi Project, which is one of those core faith partners. So just as an example here, Gopal runs the Bhumi Project and is focused especially on Hindu outreach, both in India and around the world. So Gopal works very closely with our colleague Pinaki, who I was speaking about earlier, based in India, to ensure that we're connecting the work that's going on with Hindus in India with the work that's going on with Hindus in the diaspora, as well as other faith communities within India and around the world. And this is emblematic of all our partners who we'll be speaking about shortly. So why faith communities? Much of this is really grounded in the same idea as GreenFaith as the core organization here. You know, we identify that 84% of the world's population, give or take, identifies as belonging to a faith, and that houses of worship are in every town or municipality on the planet. And this gives us not only incredible reach to people in their lives and in a context that resonates deeply with them at a spiritual level, to say, you know, folks ask like, so what, who cares, why does this matter? I think that we as faith leaders and as faith-based actors are in a unique position to be able to say, because there is a bigger picture here that we are all fighting for the same cause, and we take pride in our shared planet as our home. And so you see a few of our partners here who represent different faith traditions and multi-faith organizations around the world. So how does faith motivate sustainable living? I'm going to read a few quotes here from folks who are leading, again, living the change by example. Imam Zaid Shakir says, "Our prophet, peace upon him, is a model of simplicity. One cannot claim to be a true follower if one does not strive to emulate his simplicity in living and doing without much." Sister Jayanti with the Brahma Kumaris says, "Every thought, word, and action of mine has an impact on myself, other people, and the world. Understanding the law of karma, action and reaction, I aspire to give more than I take." And finally, Sister Christina Tomei says, "In a society that glorifies excess and fears inconvenience, eating a plant-based diet is a simple discipline that keeps me grounded and reminds me to keep making choices that respond to the urgent cries of our earth, our common home." Yeah, Annalisa.
Right. Just a really quick note. It looks like your slides are stuck on the first slide potentially.
Oh no.
We're having trouble seeing these slides.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can do this. Thank you for flagging that for me, by the way. All right. One sec. Thanks for bearing with the technical difficulties. How about now? Are we back on? Yeah, great. Okay. All righty. Okay, so again, these folks who we were just reviewing, these three stories here, are representative of a diversity of stories of change, as we call them, all of which can be found on our website, livingthechange.net. And I'll make sure to include all of these hyperlinks in the chat function as soon as I'm done presenting. So why does sustainable living matter? As many of you know, part of the reason why, and I think Nadia did a particularly good job of setting this up, the reason why these conversations are so important is because we are not yet at the point where we can breathe a sigh of relief and look towards the future and ensure that we are protecting the planet, not only for those who are living today and those who are suffering today, but in perpetuity for the children and for our future. And so we, again, as faith leaders and faith representatives around the world, are called to make these faithful choices. And we've chosen the tagline, Faithful Choices for a Flourishing World, for this Living the Change campaign, again, to hopefully imbue that sense of optimism and the sense of concern and care for the future that we are looking to share with those around the world. And we've chosen to focus on 3 high impact areas for behavior change, those being transportation, energy use, and diet. And each of these areas represents an opportunity to save more than 0.8 tons of carbon per capita per year. So again, the real key here is, we're not talking about, for example, there's an incredible campaign going on around the world to reduce plastic use. It really has taken off, in particular in Europe, but even here in the States, I'm sure many of you have seen folks, you go to a coffee shop and people are trying to go strawless, right? How do we get rid of plastic straws? That's an incredible campaign, and we want to support that as faith-based environmental actors, right? But this Living the Change Sustainable Living Initiative is focused on high impact behaviors. So don't use straws because it's bad, sure, but we really want to emphasize that, for example, if you avoid 1 transatlantic flight per year, you will do more for the environment than almost anything else that you can do. And so we'll go into a bit more detail about those types of changes. But again, we're really hoping to solicit personal commitments from faith-based actors to change how they're behaving and to share those stories so that we can actually quantify what we are doing to help mitigate the effects of climate change. So here you see a graphic that we've developed outlining these 3 priorities of sustainable living. And again, this, upgrading light bulbs is sort of a perfect example here. It's a very easy thing to do. It's absolutely something you can do. But what we're trying to do is just explain to folks, first, there's an educational burden. So, okay, upgrade your light bulbs. This is how much that will help. But look how much more of a difference it makes to eat a plant-based diet or to invest in green energy or to avoid a transatlantic flight. And there is an educational challenge here because, that point about the transatlantic flight, I have personally found as I engage with folks.
I'm not going to go back on audio if you want to listen to, Sorry, I'm going to mute Jessica. There we go. I've personally found that many individuals, even environmentally conscious folks, don't realize how much carbon dioxide taking a flight actually produces. So we'll make this graph available for folks to share as well, but this is really, one tool that captures the core reason and our thinking behind this sustainable living initiative. And this is a photo from the launch of our event, which took place last year during COP23. For anyone who might not be familiar with the COP climate conferences, that's the UN climate conference that happens every year. The next one will be this December in Poland, and we will be presenting at that as well. So Living the Change is really an initiative that is looking to draw a connection from the September 8th mobilizations to Rise for Climate through the Global Climate Action Summit, September 12th to 14th, and then well into the COP24 Climate Summit that the UN is convening in December. And these personal commitments that we'll be soliciting as Living the Change will be presented both at the climate conference, the Global Climate Action Summit in September, as well as COP24 in December. So here's a bit more about Living the Change at GCAS, as we abbreviate it. So first and foremost, there will be a multi-faith service in San Francisco at Grace Cathedral, which you can find a link to on livingthechange.net
interfaith-service. Again, I will share that link as soon as I'm done presenting here. But what we've done is that web page is the location where folks can sign up to attend in person if you'll be in San Francisco on September 12th at 3 p.m. PST, or sign up for the live stream so that you'll be able to view it live or watch the video that'll be recorded at a later date. And again, high-level leaders here, we're going to have video messages from the Dalai Lama, Patriarch Bartholomew, the Episcopal Presiding Bishop Michael Curry, as well as additional faith leaders from across sectors and around the world. Here is that webpage I was just describing to you. So you can just go to livingthechange.net and then click on Global Climate Action Summit, and that will take you to this page here. And you can see the left column is where you reserve a seat if you're going to be attending in person, or you can sign up for the live stream in that right blue column. And here are all the co-sponsoring organizations. I'll leave you to check these folks out. If you go to our website again, you can click and all of those hyperlink to their respective pages as well. Okay, wrapping up here, key events in 2018. Again, looking at this calendar, we have the Rise for Climate mobilizations on September 8th, then the Interfaith Worship Service, September 12th. We will then have a global week of Living the Change. So this is really the first mobilization, global action that Living the Change is going to be convening on its own. And we're looking to organize more than 100 globally distributed events in faith communities around the world. So this is really a celebratory opportunity. Again, part of the research that we've done leading into this initiative has demonstrated that climate action is best led with a positive, optimistic, personal message about how and why we are making these changes for our future. And so the Global Week of Living the Change from October 7th to 14th will be an opportunity to celebrate and showcase all of these incredible leaders around the world and talk about what sustainability means and how that might be different in California versus New York versus Colorado versus India versus Pakistan versus anywhere else around the world. And so we encourage you to learn more about that. And we'll be organizing additional webinars focused explicitly on the Global Week of Living the Change as we near October. And then finally, between November 3rd to 8th will be the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto. Both Living the Change and GreenFaith will be attending that and participating in some presentations as well. So please stay tuned for additional information about that. And here's some additional info about how you can get involved. You see the contact info for Caroline Bader, who's the director of this program. I also serve as communications director for this program, so feel free to email me as well at brett@greenfaith.org, B-R-E-T-T. And again, we encourage you to first, inform yourself, educate yourself on the issues, make a personal commitment. We're currently establishing the process to register those commitments, so we'll be following up with that as well. And then these similar changes, stories of change. If you see a story that really resonates with you and you feel compelled to talk about the changes you've made in your own life, we would welcome that. We really do want to serve as a platform for anyone and everyone to share their experience with sustainable living. And we're open to new ideas and suggestions about how we can do that as well. We really do see this as a distributed platform for anyone and everyone who is making faith-based sustainable living a priority in their life. So we thank you for taking the time to learn about this initiative and encourage you to ask some questions. I saw that there were a flurry of chats going on while I was speaking. I imagine some of those were like, hey, your screen is not sharing properly. So I'll make sure we answer any additional questions here, but I'm gonna pause and go back to non-screen sharing. Bear with me for just a moment. There we go. All right. Slides aren't advancing. Cool, we're all good here. Thank you everyone for flagging that for me. So I just wanted to say a couple of more things about the Global Climate Action Summit, since we've really spoken about the commitments that are going to be presented through Living the Change. Again, this notion that we are aggregating all of these personal sustainable living commitments, quantifying those to demonstrate how we're impacting climate change, and then presenting those at the Global Climate Action Summit. So this really is your opportunity to personally make a difference and add your voice to the Global Climate Action Summit, even if you can't be there in person. In addition to those commitments that'll be presented and the multi-faith service on September 12th, there will be additional faith-based presentations and opportunities to get involved on the 13th and 14th. That'll include a roundtable discussion seminar on Living the Change. There will be an off-site opportunity around similarly situated Buddhist practices and some other faith-based traditions as well. So the Global Climate Action Summit is still finalizing those agenda items, but we'll make sure that we share that with each and every one of you as those become available. Alrighty, so I think that's probably enough from me for now. I would love to turn it over to our friends and colleagues at the People's Climate Movement, specifically my good friend Annalisa, who will speak a bit about the role of PCM and how PCM has been involved with faith-based actors around the Rise for Climate mobilizations.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brett. And really excited to be with everybody on the call tonight. I'm really excited to have so many people of faith that are really energized to mobilize once again, put your faith into action once again, and really make sure that we really finish out this year strong. There's obviously so much going on in the world, and all of these issues are so urgent. So I really, really appreciate each and everybody that's on the call, and those that maybe are watching this later on YouTube or on Facebook, because we need each and every single person so that we can really build this movement and continue the power forward. And that's a little bit what I'm going to talk about, is essentially a People's Climate Movement. Since 2014, many of you may have remembered the historic People's Climate March in New York City. But since that moment of this massive historic climate march, where the slogan was to change everything, it takes everyone, we really wanted to take that moment and turn it into a movement. So I've been working with PCM since a few months ago, maybe just 2, and I'm our campaign coordinator this year. So we've got a lot of work going on to help build that movement with people like yourselves that are from faith-based communities, that are from multi-issue organizations, but that are also from secular organizations such as labor groups and environmental justice groups, traditional conservation groups, youth groups, and others. So I wanted to just quickly introduce myself too, because I also come from the faith-based world. I originally started in my advocacy work as an organizer with PICO National, which is now Faith in Action National. I was raised in California, and I grew up seeing agriculture and water be a huge piece of what it meant to be a person living in the state. It was a major piece of our identity. And of course, now with the recent drought, floods, and fires, it's been pretty devastating to me personally, not just on the resources side, but also knowing that many of my friends and family are farm workers, are working the fields, are tending the land that provide the country with about 50% of the food that you all eat every single day. So this point of entry is very important because of the fact that many people come from their points of spirituality. They come from their personal experience. They come from the fact that they have or haven't had the privilege of being outdoors to enjoy it or to work the land. So we really want at People's Climate Movement to ensure that we're making a platform where everybody can enter into the environmental movement and feel like they have ownership over their experience and their identity, and can use that as a way to build power in our communities. So again, we're really, really looking to the Rise for Climate, Jobs, and Justice Day of Mobilization on September 8th, which is the weekend just before GCAS, as a way to build that power. As Brett was mentioning, and as others were referring to, GCAS is this opportunity to influence subnational leaders from across the country and also position ourselves in the United States as a leader on climate globally. So we were looking to this weekend, which is the weekend right after Labor Day and the weekend just before GCAS, to make sure that we are getting our voices heard, not just from the environmental sector or even from the climate or environmental justice sector, but from the many points of entry that we all come to relate to the environment around. So I don't want to speak too much because I would love to introduce my fellow colleague who's one of the artists that's working with People's Climate Movement. But just very briefly, once again, our National Day of Mobilization is September 8th. It's called Rise for Climate, Jobs, and Justice. I encourage everyone to get some more information by going to peoplesclimate.org and hitting Take Action. And you can see where people are setting up actions across the country. And there is also opportunity for folks outside of the US as well to rise for climate and set up their own actions. Brett's dropping in the links for those of you all that are in the chat. And for those that are not on the chat but are on the phone, we'll make sure to send that information out in email as well. But again, what I wanted to highlight here is although we're a multi-issue, multi-sector movement, tonight we're here to talk about the faith-based community. So with that, I would really love to introduce Adrienne Gann, and she, as I mentioned, is one of the artists we've been working with, and she'll share a little bit more about what this experience has been with her to come into the movement with her spirituality leading her. So Adrienne, I pass it over to you.
Thanks, Annalisa. Can everyone hear me okay? Are we good? Okay, great. So I just wanted to share a little content real quick. It's actually an artist's bio from last year, just to give a little background about me. That way I won't spend a lot of time like giving you my history or anything, but I'll go ahead and share that in a minute. So basically I came on board last year kind of unexpectedly. They did not have a faith artist for the Kansas City March in Missouri, and they kind of had a network of people, and one of those people was one of my really good friends, and she'd worked with me in the education sector, and she knew that I would probably rise to the call. So I really didn't actually know anything about it at first until I got a phone call one day, and she said, "Oh my gosh, Adrienne, I need your help." She said, "No one has raised their hand to do the faith banner for the march, and we need something in like a week." And so I'm never gonna let her down. So I said, okay, give me some time, let me think about it. So I called her the next day, and I had some sketches I showed to her. I put them into a kind of like a montage, and somehow I fell into the People's Climate Movement. And so here I am again in 2018. So I'm new to all of this. I'm learning. This is great to be on this call with all of you because I am still learning too. Now I get to learn about Green Faith. I'm still learning about the People's Climate Movement. But so last year I did the faith banner, and it was a part of just a really strong sector, I think, with faith and the People's Climate. It was just amazing to be a part of something bigger. I'm always looking to be a part of something bigger than myself. I identify as a Christian myself personally. So I'm a follower and believer of Jesus Christ, and I have been several ministries with my husband. We actually are a member of a Baptist church here in Odessa, Missouri. So we're considered leaders in our own organization of faith. I'm in my faith house right now, talking to you all. So I thought that was kind of cool. He's over there doing a volleyball court for the youth right now. So we're just kind of having a family day here. But I just really loved being involved. And my question whenever Ingrid and I talked, and I don't know if you all have, I think Annalisa will introduce Ingrid again, but she contacted me, Alicia actually contacted me, and they said, hey, you did artwork for last year's People's Climate in Kansas City. I was like, yeah, and I didn't understand how you all got my number, but somehow you did. So I was like, yeah, I did. So what's up? And so they said, well, we need someone else. We need someone to do the faith poster again this year. And I said, okay, well, what do you need? Of course, I'm going to help. I'm going to do whatever I can. So I'm really excited. It's going to be revealed in mid-July, this year's faith poster that I am submitting to Ingrid at People's Climate. So it's been really exciting so far. And one of the questions I asked Ingrid was, why are there not more artists raising their hands to be a part of this? I don't understand, because I didn't hesitate when I was asked. I didn't raise my hand and approach anyone to do it. I didn't answer the call for artists, but whenever I was asked to do it, I didn't hesitate, because for me, my artwork comes from my faith. I believe solely 100% that my art and my talent is a gift. It's a spiritual gift, and I want to use it, and I want to use it to bring other people, whether bringing them to faith or bringing everyone together in interfaith or faith. Like, I want everyone to be, connected in that way. So I'm bold and I'm brave when it comes to my art and being honest about my faith in my art. So that was just kind of my question to Ingrid is, so why aren't more people who are artists raising their hand to get involved in this movement and share their art? And so that was just, she said, that's a very good question. And then I got invited to be on this webinar. So I don't know, it's just all happening so fast. So I just have such a fire and such a passion in my artwork. So I think it communicates, at least, it's subtle, but I think it's there in every piece I do, my faith and, just my commitment to sharing things with the world around me. I think art is so important to this movement because of the emotion it evokes and the conversations it begins. And I didn't get to be a part of the gallery showings for 2017. But my friend, she said that it was amazing to watch people go up to the faith banner and just stand there in front of it and have conversation after conversation after conversation about it, and that everyone had something different to say. And that dialogue, that interaction, that engagement, like, I think that's amazing. So I just want to be a part of it. And I hope that other artists out there would want to also get in contact with Ingrid and the People's Climate movement, and just see how they can be involved, doing a poster, social media, sharing the art on social media, being a part of the launch, being a part of the movement. Anyway, like I said, I'm new to this, so it's exciting, and I'm really enjoying this journey, and getting to meet new people like Annalisa and Brett, and Ingrid and Alicia, all with the People's Climate. So I think there's some things I'm supposed to share with you guys. I think there's a link that I can share that where you can download posters and graphics and then share them. That's from the People's Climate. And then just to remind you guys that there's art coming from the People's Climate for the faith sector in July. I gotta get that by deadline, right? Okay. So that, and just if you guys are out there, you're artists, and you want to talk about how you can get involved in the interfaith section of People's Climate, we can get you in contact with Ingrid with her contact information, and we're just really looking forward to September 8th. It's gonna be really good, exciting times. So. I will go ahead and share a little content. I'll share my banner from last year so you guys can see it. I'll share my artist profile, and I will share some information from Ingrid. I think she asked me to share. So I think with that, I will give it back to you, Brett.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Annalisa, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again as well, Adrian. Just for context for folks, Ingrid is the People's Climate Movement Arts and Cultural Organizing Coordinator. And yes, we are encouraging you all, I think implicit perhaps in the statement that Adrian shared about why are artists of faith perhaps not more engaged in the environmental and climate movement in general, I think is also an amazing opportunity for folks on the phone that know other artists, that are looking to also create a space perhaps to foster culture, spirituality, alongside the organizing that People's Climate is working on with GreenFaith as a partner hand in hand. This is really the opportunity, I think, for you all to be able to offer that space. I think folks were talking about that in the chat box as well, that this moment is really important for all of us to come together, and particularly to continue to show folks that maybe come from more secular sectors or industries or walks of life in general. I think Jessica earlier was mentioning, you know, wherever folks are at on their journey, we want to do our best to welcome them in. And here you can see Adrienne is sharing her art that she created from last year to speak to the difference of a variety and aspects of what it takes to build a healthy climate, and coming from her perspective. And you should definitely get in touch with her further to hear a little bit more of that story. But I just wanted to wrap it up and say that I think what's been so exciting in partnering with GreenFaith and in partnering with houses of worship in general and partnering with faith leaders is this ability to really speak truth to power. Because again, we are in this urgent moment where there can be sometimes hesitation or fear, but I think as people of faith, most of us are asked to live without fear, to lead with our faith, and to move forward in that way. And so I again encourage you all that this is a moment. Again, we're speaking about GCAS, we're speaking about September 8th, but we still have a lot of work to do after the fall. We're looking to midterm elections. We want to make sure people are getting out to vote. We want to make sure that we're holding our electeds accountable across the board. And that's really why this September 8th mobilization is called not just Rise for Climate, but Rise for Climate, Jobs, and Justice. Because we really need to make sure that there is equity, that we are pushing for economic and racial justice, as much as we are pushing for environmental and climate justice in our efforts. We really want to make sure that we're supporting the communities. I think that folks were mentioning earlier as far as walking with the voiceless, making sure that we're lifting up the people who are the most impacted by climate injustice and injustice overall. This is the time that we are going to be able to show it in September 8th. So make sure you all mark your calendars. If you go to the website, you will see the map where there are actions being planned already. So if you're interested in participating, that's the place to go. If you're interested in hosting an action, leading, being perhaps a part of a team or a table or an alliance that is locally in your community, I'm more than happy to connect you with other partners in your regions and other activists that also would like to build something with you. So don't ever feel like you're alone. Don't ever feel like this is a lift that you will have to do all by yourself. You definitely have the support of PCM, and you of course have the support of GreenFaith. We'll be continuing, as Brett mentioned, to offer opportunities to help you all get set up to support your Rise for Climate, Jobs, and Justice action, to have your satellite actions around GCAS, and to continue moving forward together post-September as well. So thank you all again for letting People's Climate speak to you all a little bit. We really, really appreciate our partnership with GreenFaith as one of our core decision-making members as a part of our coalition. And we're definitely looking forward to continuing to bring forth, again, this powerful truth-telling, this powerful activism, this powerful organizing that you all are doing. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Annalisa. Really do appreciate that. And that's a good sort of segue here. I know that we're coming up on the hour. So first, just as a final call to action, I am sharing a link here, was shared earlier as well in the chat bar. This is a Google form that we've created for you to let us know how you plan to get involved. And this will really help us to share the proper resources with you, so that if you want to get involved on September 8th, as Annalisa has said, we'll share all of those hyperlinks and materials with you. If you also want to get involved with the interfaith service, then we can share that as well. And so we'll be sending out these emails tomorrow, but please do complete that Google form at your convenience. I also want to take just a few minutes to answer quick questions here. I've seen a few of them. First, in order, Roseanne asked, what kind of commitment form will be developed? This is with regards to living the change. And will it be able to be quantified? the answer is that we're currently developing the form. The reason why it's actually not available today is because we're working with leading climate and sustainable living experts. These are really world-renowned scientists who have been working in this space for quite some time. And they're helping us to develop a mechanism to ensure that as we are capturing and quantifying the climate change mitigation that we're working towards, that is accurate, and that we're able to present that at these very high-level conferences to non-state and state actors, to be able to say, look at how faith communities are making a difference, and this is how you can join in. This is a space where we can actually do some good. So hopefully that answers your question. And then I will follow up. Let me know. Cool. Okay. Those are all the questions I have in here for now. I just want to see if anyone else has final questions. Please feel free to type those into the chat bar now. And if not, then we will wrap up shortly, and everyone can stay tuned for that follow-up email tomorrow. So it looks like folks are all set then. We must have done a great job of sharing all this information if there aren't any more questions. I want to thank everyone, each of our speakers again, truly, considering a speaker. Janet asked a question here, but I'm not sure what this question is. Janet, could you type that into the chat bar again, maybe explicate a bit more? Okay. Well, for the sake of time, just so that we allow folks to be able to hop off here, Janet. Oh, I believe Janet's asking if we're going to be able to provide a venue for speakers, for the climate scientists to speak as well. Very much so. So Living the Change is designed as a sustainable living initiative that really partners these faith-based leaders with climate scientists, again, to ensure that as we're making these faith-based changes, we are capturing and quantifying how these changes actually help to improve our planet. So yes, we will be providing an avenue for climate scientists to get involved. We're doing that actively right now. And if there are additional folks who you think that we should be engaging with, please feel free to email those to us. Again, my email is Brett, B-R-E-T-T, @greenfaith.org. And we'll be sending that out tomorrow, so you can also just reply then. So it's 3 minutes past the hour. Folks seem enthusiastic. I truly appreciate everyone's involvement again. Thank you for your leadership here. We really are trying to take this moment and build it into a movement. And in order to do that, we all need to come together as a global community and really help fight the same fight and read from the same prayer book here, right? So again, thanks to each and every one of you for your leadership. Thank you for your time in participating in this webinar, and looking forward to next steps with all of you. And with that, we'll call it a do. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.